Welcome, everyone. It's a Wednesday, September 21st, 2022 at 6 p.m. It's a regular meeting of the Pacific Grove City Council. May we have a roll call, please?
Mayor Peak,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Emilio,
Here.
Council members Coletti,
Here.
McAdams,
Here.
Paduri,
Here.
Smith,
Here.
Tomlinson,
Here.
all present.
Councilmember Coletti, would you lead us in the pledge?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Moving on to approval of the agenda, I will ask for approval of the agenda with a hard stop at 9 o'clock. And we'll check in at the 8 o'clock break. We'll check in where we are.
So moved, Your Honor. Second.
May we have a vote, please?
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Emilio,
Aye.
Aye.
Council members Tomlinson, Paduri,
Aye.
McAdams,
Aye.
and Coletti.
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0 to approve the agenda.
Thank you. We have a presentation. I'm not giving it to anyone, no one here, but it's in the packet. It's Hispanic Heritage Month. That's from the middle of September 15th to October 15th. And it's recognizing all Hispanics that are here today and have been part of our community and culture, and recognizing and celebrating them and their contributions to us. Council member comments? Councilmember Coletti? Councilmember McAdams?
Thank you, Mayor. And I just would like to thank the DEI for bringing this resolution forward. It is important to pay tribute to the generations of Hispanic Americans who positively influence and enrich our nation state and the city of Pacific Grove, especially in Monterey County, whose main economic drivers are agriculture and hospitality, where we see predominantly Hispanics working in those economic drivers. But, we also need to acknowledge that there are a lot of influential Hispanic Americans in our communities who are teachers, attorneys, doctors, all kinds of specialized employees that bring a lot of value to our society. So thanks.
Okay, I'm going to just close that out. Now, therefore, I, Bill Peak, Mayor of Pacific Grove, California, do hereby proclaim September 15th, 2022 through October 15th, 2022, Hispanic Heritage Month, and encourage all citizens to recognize the significance of Hispanic heritage and history in our nation and city. All right, we're now to council and staff announcements. I'll turn to our city attorney, Mr. Pierik.
I have no announcements.
And Ms. Hannah, staff announcements.
We don't have any staff announcements.
Council announcements. Councilmember McAdams.
Thank you. I had a great time at the Makers Market and grand opening of the California Seltzer Company. Another new business that has opened in Pacific Grove is the Grove Garden Shop, which is located at 472 Lighthouse Avenue. And they will be opening the first ever pumpkin patch in Pacific Grove, not at a grocery store, on October 15th. So welcome to both of those businesses. I serve on the Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary Advisory Council, and this last weekend was the Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary's 30th anniversary, as well as the 50th anniversary of NOAA's National Marine Sanctuary System. The anniversaries coincided with California Coastal Cleanup Day. So I wanted to thank the many community members who participated in the events, and to the Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary staff who organized the celebratory weekend. Thank you.
I would like to announce that a week from this Thursday, the Pacific Grove Chamber of Commerce is hosting Flavors of PG at many restaurants across town. I hope you'll participate September 29th. And immediately following that, from Friday through September 30th through October 2nd is Butterfly Days events. And there's been a lot of brochures and notices in the paper for people to celebrate Butterfly Days. And we'll have a parade, I think. Okay. And last but not least, congratulations to the Friends of the Pacific Grove Library and the foundation of the Pacific Grove Library. They have merged and are now one organization supporting our wonderful library. And congratulations. I believe Kim Bowie is the president of the newly merged organization. So congratulations. Without any, Councilmember Tomlinson.
Thanks, Mayor. I just wanted to say that last night I was able to go to the candidate forum, which you were at, and Mr. Emilio was at, and a lot of some of the other folks in the audience as well, put on by the League of Women Voters. It was great to see all the candidates out that are running for mayor and for city council and hearing their thoughts. And they did say they recorded it. So in a couple of days, it will be available to watch if it's something you want to watch. I think it's really informative. And best of luck to all the candidates. They were great to meet them last night.
Now on to general public comment. Is there anyone in the audience here wishing to make public comment? Please come forward to the podium. Welcome.
Pacific Grove. First of all, I'd like to thank you for the Hispanic Heritage Month. My great-great-great-grandfather was born in Mexico in 1800. So I'm like 16th Spanish or something, and a bunch of other stuff. Half Italian, obviously. I want to speak to this DEI committee and the chair of the DEI committee. I want to congratulate you on coming up with another kind of useless committee that well, it happens to be woke too. I guess that's the main part about it, that it's useless in it, but it's going to probably cost taxpayer money. And the greatest thing is you got a chair who is a bigot and went after Christians. And I thought a DEI, what is it, diversity, equity, and inclusion? That doesn't sound very inclusive to me. She got on the front page of the Carmel Pine Cone. I would say it's very embarrassing to you guys. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think you voted 7-0 to set up this committee. I see this as virtue signaling, but you didn't get much for your money because now you're a laughing stock. It was supposed to be woke, but now you're a joke. I mean, picking someone like this, not only is she, a bigot, but she's like, there's something wrong with her. She's kind of mentally ill. Some of the other comments that she made about the Supreme Court and stuff. So this is not what you want in Pacific Grove, I don't think. So I would suggest, number one, you get rid of her. She's already pretty much destroyed her her candidacy as a.
Stop.
Excuse me.
Can we stop? Let me ask a point of our city attorney. This is a personal attack on an appointed official.
It is. I mean, he's got First Amendment rights too and rights under the Brown Act. But I believe you could ask him to refrain from making personal attacks.
Okay,
All right.
I've given you all my opinion on that. I would suggest you remove her and you dissolve this committee
Okay.
as being worthless. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you, Sally Moore. And I would just like to thank the council for voting to reinstate the rebroadcasting of the meetings on the AMP television station. And it's primarily on Sundays. I think there are other times too, but I had company, was not able to participate in the council meeting, and I was able to sit and watch it in the comfort of my home. So thank you so much for doing that.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in the audience? Welcome.
Hello, good evening. Can you hear me? Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, and rest of the Pacific Grove community. My name is John Hasselbauer, and I'm here to express my support for the skate park here in Pacific Grove. Over the past several months since the Pacific Grove skate park project started, I've seen an abundant support and positivity towards this project in our community. So I think it's safe to say that the community is behind a skate park. However, the jury is still out on the location. On Monday, a group of skate park advocates, including myself and children, were at the farmers market as part of the community outreach. For over 3 hours, we spoke with many people from all demographics, asking how they could help contribute to the project. Many were ready to write checks or give cash to the cause. However, I told them that until the city council decides on a location, we cannot begin the fundraising process. I would like to remind the community that except the $158,000 that the city has already graciously allocated for the skate park, the rest of it will be paid for by members of the community through fundraising and donations, not taxpayer funds. Over 3 hours at the farmers market with all that positivity, I only had one negative interaction, and it was with a neighbor of George Washington Park. The man approached the children and myself at the stand, and he immediately went into an atrocious, bigoted, racist, and homophobic rant about change, about the skate park, about members of this city council, and about many members of our community. I did my best to defuse the situation, only to be threatened with violence. Thankfully, the incident was recorded by a bystander. We will not tolerate this behavior or belligerence towards our children. PG is better than this. Over my life and over the 60 different skate parks that I've visited, I have never once experienced bigotry, racism, or hatred like I did at our own farmers market in Pacific Grove. And I know more than ever that Pacific Grove needs a park that celebrates our youth, our diversity, and inclusion. As a member of this community and the skate park project, I genuinely don't care where the skate park goes. All I care is that it's safe, it's accessible, and it's in a visible location. I would also like to remind the community that we are a volunteer group, and we do not make the decisions for the city of Pacific Grove or the entire community. Lastly, I would like to address an issue that I find highly unprofessional and inappropriate. A member of this city council has been entrenched in social media for the past several months, stoking fires, putting out false information, and advocating against the skate park. Before you all can address this as a council, you are better than this. We as a community are better than this, and our children deserve more than this. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? All right. Do we have any virtual audience? Thank you.
We do, sir. Michelle Rainey.
Welcome.
Hello. I just want to make a very brief comment about the political signs that have been posted recently in my neighborhood. It's my understanding that those signs shouldn't be going up till the end of the month. And it is disappointing to see that there are candidates or people who are running who have put their signs up early in order to get a leg up, I guess, on the other candidates. And their actions will inform my decision on voting. And it's very disappointing to see a sitting member of city council putting the signs up early. Thank you.
Thank you.
No other call.
All right, we'll close public comment and move on to the consent agenda. Anyone wishing from council wishing to pull an item from the consent agenda? Anyone from the public wishing to pull a consent agenda item? Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'd like to pull 8A, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
We have one virtual, Mr. Mayor.
Pardon?
We have one virtual hand.
Okay, I'm just looking in the agenda 8A. Let's move that to 12B as in boy. And online. Yeah, the
Lisa
online
Chi-
asked to pull.
Yes, Lisa Gianni.
Welcome.
I had actually raised my hand, I thought, for general public comment, but it turned out it wasn't up. So, excuse me, I don't know if you want to hear my comment or not. It's not very long.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. George Washington Park is a community treasure, and it's PG's largest continuous stand of Monterey pine forest. The forest management plan that's been done for George Washington Park, the draft that's out, is a fairly slapdash plan presented or posted for the public in phases as they completed it, I guess. But the public comment closed last Wednesday. I hope you will read the plan and soon, and please consider that it does not acknowledge the George Washington Park Master Plan approved by City Council in September of the year 2000, including the management guideline for Zone 1, which is the section along Cinex, specifying that it should be an extension of the park proper and as such be maintained in as much of a natural state as its intended use will permit, with the existing day use area not to be extended. But Zone 1 is not part of this forest management plan, and that needs to be corrected, while the plan as a whole needs rethinking. The 2019 BNRC subcommittee report on George Washington Park was disregarded in the plan as well. Most importantly, the plan fails to address the park ecosystem, with wildlife simply being noted on a list, and the drastic vegetation removal work all scheduled during nesting season. I know you'll study the plan carefully. Please keep these issues in mind. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, now we have consent agenda, one item to be pulled, item 8A. May I hear a motion?
Motion to approve consent agenda with 8A, move to 12B.
Second. A vote, please.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Baduri.
Aye.
Councilmembers Tomlinson,
Aye.
McAdams, Coletti.
Aye.
Mayor Potem Emilio,
Aye.
Mayor Pete.
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0 to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Thank you. Now moving on to item 11A, ordinance amending the salary classification schedule for the Police Officers Association. Welcome, Ms. Livian.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members, staff, and members of the public. Last month, City Council approved a 2-year memorandum of understanding with the Police Officer Association. The approved MOU included a 3% cost of living adjustment in year 1 of the contract and a 2% cost of living adjustment in year 2 of the contract. In order to administer the increase for year 1, the salary classification schedule needs to be amended by ordinance. Therefore, staff is asking council to approve an ordinance amending the salary classification schedule for the POA classifications, which include police officer and police sergeant. And then I just want to make a note that in the agenda report, under the financial impact section, under year 2, fiscal year 23/24, the amount of 70,000 should have been corrected to 68,500. This concludes my report, and I'll open it up for discussion.
Do we have public comment?
Nobody online, sir.
Council discussion? Well, if there's not discussion, that means we go to a motion.
Make a motion to approve the items 1 through 6.
I believe we're going to need to have them read the ordinance, the title.
What's that?
Are we on 11A?
Correct.
Yeah, so,
you want
Someone
me to
needs
go
to
one?
ask me to read the ordinance by title.
Oh,
yeah, well, let's just check, see if there's any discussion on the motion first. I don't expect there is. We've discussed this in the past. So, Mr. Pyrick.
Okay.
please.
Yes, this is an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Pacific Grove, amending the classification schedule for police sergeant and police officer. And what can be done now would be the motion to approve items 2 through 6.
May we have a vote, please?
Councilmember Emilio?
Aye.
I'm sorry, Mayor Pro Tem Emilio,
aye.
Councilmember McAdams, Mayor Peak,
Aye.
Councilmember Coletti.
Aye.
Councilmember Paduri. Member Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Tomlinson,
Aye.
and carries 7-0.
On to item 11B, fire engine repairs and amending our budget. Mr. Go, welcome.
Thank you, Your Honor, members of the City Council. Good evening. Pleased to be here. Tonight, we are requesting authorization for repairs to fire engine 6414, which is Pacific Grove's first out engine, an amount of $75,304 and some change, plus a 15% contingency. This will allow us to repair the water pump associated with the fire suppression equipment and the steering box and all the suspension parts as that part of that engine. These repairs are very complex and require large specialty equipment. So we're requesting a contingency in the event that additional parts are needed once the technicians dig into the fire engine. Additionally, city staff's in the process of receiving quotes and reviewing options for the purchase of a new fire engine or apparatus, which will be before the city council at a very near future meeting. We will review all the options, but to purchase and obtain a new engine is about 2 years out. So that's why repairs of 6414 are essential to make sure that we're still providing this service to our community. Additionally, to adjust the budget to accommodate for the repairs, an ordinance is also before you tonight. The funding for the repairs to the engine will be from the unrestricted general fund balance and will be appropriated in the fire and emergency services department budget. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Do we have public comment?
No
Wow.
virtual.
Wow, we are moving along quickly. Council discussion on this item. Member Paduri.
Yes, thank you. My question was really around the new fire apparatus. Is that going to be an electric fire truck?
I don't have that information in front of me, but we are obtaining quotes for traditional fuel-powered engines and electric engines. Those options will be before you at a future meeting.
Okay, thank you. My view is that fire engines really have a big carbon footprint. And more recently, Los Angeles has released its first electric fire truck. And it's released by a company called Rosenbauer that is famous for actually having fire trucks. So my view is that since this is 2 years out, we should strongly look into the possibility of having an electric fire truck. Thank you.
Councilmember Coletti.
Thank you. Mr. Go, who owns this particular truck?
This truck is a 2006, Councilmember Coletti.
We own it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Who
I-
owns it?
Oh, we do. I'm sorry. I thought you said how old is it?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. And
It's a 2006 and the city of Pacific Grove owns it.
we do. So we
That's
hold
correct.
title on it.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
It's been a while since I've been to the fire station. I will admit that. And when I was over there years ago, there were 3 engines. This is the number 1. This is the latest. I don't know if Chief Pansholzer on the line here. This is.
Chief
your
Panholzer is
department.
online and available for questions. That's correct.
Yeah, I could welcome, Chief. Could you just give us like a 2-minute description or a minute description of the fire engines we have? Because it's not just this one.
Yes, happy to do so, Mayor, and good evening, mayors and members of the council. the city of Pacific Grove owns actually 3 fire apparatus of the larger truck-based variety. One is this engine in question, and then there is an older engine that is in reserve status. And then the city also owns a ladder truck, which is no longer in service and is at the station still, but is not being used. And actually, I stand corrected, that you also own an antique fire engine that's used by the volunteers and shows up in parades and at city events. So that's what the fleet is that the city of Pacific Grove owns.
All right, thank you. And yeah, I think just crossed my mind on, and maybe you've already considered it, and if not, then it's just throw out an idea, is obviously this equipment is very, very expensive. I'm assuming a new fire truck is north of $500,000, I'm guessing. Yeah, okay. So, and the fact that we have an overwhelming number of calls from the fire station are for emergency services, and there's only normally one or two fire calls per month. So anyhow, it just crossed my mind that maybe a less expensive vehicle could go out and save some wear and tear on the most expensive vehicle. Anyhow, just a thought. If you had any comments, fine. If not, I'll go to Councilmember Tomlinson.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm ready to move to approve, but I also am very anxious, I guess, or excited to hear about the topic that we're not discussing tonight, which is what we're going to purchase, whether it be electric or legacy, and all those pros and cons. So I guess I will move to approve the recommended action with the $75,304.54 and 15% contingency for maintaining the number 1 fire truck we have.
And 2
641.
through 5.
And 2 through 5.
And you're going to want me to read the title?
And will we need a second on that? Do I have a second?
that.
Okay.
I got a question
Oh, please.
for the city attorney. So on our agenda reports, number 2 is requesting you to read the title of the ordinance. So do we want to switch up how we're doing this? Because we've done back-to-back ordinances and I think we're up here thinking we made the motion and it says it right there. So
It does. You could put, for example, here, I think that the first action should be to request the reading of the title. So this item that's number 1 in your agenda could have been later, like maybe make it number 6. So it could have dropped to 6, and that would have made it an easier process, but this is okay.
Councilmember Tomlinson.
So I'm not tracking on this change. And like for 4 years, we've never done this. And I'm understanding that we're getting it wrong kind of every time. So can you walk us through what should happen?
Well, actually, you've been getting it right every time.
We are getting it right?
Well,
Now.
Yeah.
I know we've been doing it wrong. It's becoming abundantly clear to me, but I want to know how to do it right.
The way you do it right is you ask the city attorney to read the title of the ordinance, which I've been doing since I've been here. So I read the title, and then you make a motion to waive further reading of the title, which you can do in combination with the other action items as well. That's because, otherwise I'd have to read the entire ordinance, which it's easier for everyone if I'm just reading the title.
So rather than one of us saying, I'd like to make a motion and refer this, the first thing that should happen when discussion stops is I would like the city attorney to read the title of the ordinance.
Yes.
Okay. I would like the city attorney to read the title of the ordinance. I'm going to practice this with you.
Okay, and I'll be glad to do that.
Okay.
This is an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Pacific Grove, amending the approved budget for the fiscal year 2022-2023.
Now I'd like to make a motion to waive further reading of the ordinance as well as the recommended actions.
Second.
We had a motion on the floor already.
I'm just practicing.
Well, I think they sounded pretty similar to me. Yeah, okay. A vote, please.
Councilmember Tomlinson. Councilmember McAdams.
Aye.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Baduri,
Aye.
Coletti,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Emilio,
Aye.
Mayor Peak.
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, we're now on to item 12A, and that is my item. And Miss Lindstrom, if you would be so kind, I have a few slides. Excellent. So this item is purchasing authorization procedures. Next. All right. Well, first I want to thank the city attorney and the assistant city manager for helping out, providing input, better wording, and the assistant city manager has developed a purchasing manual, and that includes standard contracts, which I stole from her, which is in the agenda packet. This is a result of culmination of council discussions from well over a year. The most recent was in April of this year. Next, please. So purchasing authorization, what is the foundation? Where does that authority come from? It comes out of our city charter, Article 40, which establishes the regulatory framework and clearly points to city council as having fiduciary responsibility for purchases, all purchases, and the purchasing process. So the buck stops right here on the dais when it comes to purchases, contracts, et cetera. And then in the municipal code 2.16, purchasing system and procedures, that provides extensive details on how purchases should be made. In particular, it goes into great detail on bidding. So if you'd like to know more about it, it's online. Next. Well, why do this tonight? Why consider amending the code? Well, in a nutshell, it's to add clarity from our discussions and comments over the last year and a half or so. I think that these amendments, most of them are minor, very minor, will foster a common understanding amongst both staff and council for the purchasing authority and the high level process. It will implement some standard procedures because we've done this a little different ways from meeting to meeting and even agenda item to agenda item. Provide a clear approval authority, reinforce where that approval authority is. And ultimately, I hope will provide for more efficient council meetings. Next. So there's 4 code amendments. I'll go through each one. There's the code the first one's in 2.05. Then the next 2 are in 2.16 and the last one 6.20. I'll go through each one of them individually. Next. All right. So the code that would be amended, that's the line in the code is shown in green. So the code is 2.05010. Mayor required to sign contracts and other legal instruments. That's in our code today. And then the red is the amendment. In this case, it's an addition to. And so funny, this fills a gap. So when it wasn't too long ago, a year and a half ago, when we implemented the mayor to sign contracts, we didn't give the mayor any authority. We just said the mayor shall sign, but we didn't say how the mayor has the authority to sign. And so this addition makes it clear that I hopefully it makes it clear, that the mayor only has authority to sign because council has given the mayor that authority. I mean, I think it's almost a no brainer, and maybe that's why we didn't do it. We missed that, but anyhow, that's the first change, is an addition. Okay, next. Okay, this again, it's code 2.16160, authorized for purchases by the purchasing agent. Now, the purchasing agent is the city manager. Okay. Again, the green is what's in the code, and the proposed amendment is shown in red. And what's in the code describes how every 5 years, the purchasing agent, i.e. the city manager's purchasing limit, increases as a function of inflation, the CPI. And in very explicit detail, it says how to calculate it. But it doesn't say what is the mechanism by sort of authorizing the city manager this higher limit. Well, only council has that authority. So I'm just sticking by council resolution. It fills another gap. Doesn't change any of the process, but every 5 years, when that limit is increased by this formula, it should be council resolution should be approving that increase. Okay. All right, next one, please. All right, now we'll go to 2.16.220, formal contract procedure. Again, green is what's in the code, red is to add. And we have ignored the code for many years. The code says contracts are approved by the council by resolution, and we don't normally do that. We just have a motion to approve purchase. In fact, we just did that. Well, we just had a motion to approve the expenditure. And so the city manager, the city attorney has advised me, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that we don't absolutely need a resolution. We can just continue on as we've been doing. Just have a motion to approve the purchase or the contract, and it has the same legal weight. So just 2 words or a motion, okay? All right, next one. All right, in the same part of code, formal contract procedure, this is just an oversight. It just says, it does not, it's referring to bidding. And council often is not approving contracts that are bid, like professional services. And so that's the Article 1, and that's the first part of this word. I'll read it, it's in red. Except when procedures may be dispensed with as defined in Article 1 of this chapter. That says, you know, if you have a professional, an agreement with a professional, it's a specialty service, you don't have to go out for bidding. And we do that all the time. And so that fills that gap, or otherwise provided by law. And that means if there's an emergencies and we need to dispense with some of the procedures. So it is, again, it's filling in a gap. Next. Okay, here is the main event. 2.16.220 formal contract procedure, standard contracts. This is something that the city manager has suggested or recommended. Our assistant city manager has prepared standard contracts. You could call them templates to be used when approved by the city attorney and council by resolution. And these would be contracts that have been prepared by staff with CJPIA input. So they're expected to be rigorous. Then the next one, written contracts shall be provided to council prior to approval. So this says that when council is approving a contract, council gets to see the words. And I think that happens in normal, everyday business. You're renting something, you're buying something, you're signing up for an app. You get to see the language in front of you. Anyhow, so that's what that language is. We can see the language, but in this case, with standard contracts, we don't have to sort through, 30 pages of contracts. We've got the template. And so council's only looking at the key pieces of the contract, and they're listed here. Parties, that is the people we're dealing with, the term, the length, scope of work, price, and contingencies to extend the term and or increase the price. So, not only does this shrinks the amount of material in the agenda packet, we don't have to review or discuss a lot of the material, but it also focuses council on what are the key components of the contract. Next. Okay. This is the last one, and it's in the code 6.20.040. This differs from what is in your agenda packet. I just received this recently from our staff. So you see the cross out and the bold. So this part of the code says basically the city manager can pay for things. What we talked about before was the authorization to sign a contract to buy something. This speaks to paying for it. So it complements the purchase agreement. So I get ahead of myself. So the green says if it's in the budget, the city manager can go ahead and pay for it. But it doesn't mention purchase authorization at all. And so this, I don't know how to phrase it, just buttresses, complements the purchase authorization by saying, oh, and by the way, it's in the budget, but it also has to be properly authorized by the purchasing code 2.16. Okay, next. So what I think will be the outcome from making these changes is that it more clearly defines the purchasing authority, where it rests in council and where it doesn't, less confusion. It, I think, aligns with the new purchasing manual. I'll defer to staff, whether that does or not. And as I just mentioned, I think this makes a more efficient council approvals. The agenda is smaller and less time is spent looking at material that we don't need to look at repeatedly. All right, next. All right, well, thank you for giving this your consideration, and I'll ask our assistant city manager if she had any comments or any staff input.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have any further comments. Thank you for including the input that we've provided.
Okay, and I'll just add I didn't put the recommendation. The recommendation is to direct the city attorney to prepare a draft ordinance with these changes and also to bring the standard templates, of which there's 5, I think, five standard templates to council for approval by resolution. So that's it in a nutshell. Do we have any public comment on this? Stunned.
No virtual.
No virtual. All right, council comments, Councilmember Tomlinson.
Well, thank you, Mayor. I know we've been talking about this for a while, so thanks for taking a pen at it. I guess my question would be for Ms. Hannah as far as the purchasing handbook or whatever you called it. I know that's been undergoing kind of a review. Do all of these changes, are they going to align with it? Will they, or are we putting it a little bit out of whack? I would hope not. I guess, was this done in concert?
Councilmember Tomlinson through the mayor. The majority of the items appear to be just clarifications. The one that we've put as a pending item was that we were wanting to try to get the standard contracts approved so that we could just put reference to attachment. So yes, that piece is within the purchasing manual. It's listed as a pending item that we knew that we were considering bringing forward.
Okay, and then a follow-up for you. I mean, just given that this is your domain and you know, you keep us in line, and trains running on time and all that. I mean, do you have do all these clarifications help make that easier for you?
Excuse me. Yes, it does provide additional clarity.
Okay.
And the resolution piece does, I'm sorry, the resolution versus a motion provides clarity, especially because we have been approving agreements by motion.
Okay. That's all my questions. I'm very supportive. Thank you.
Councilmember Peduri.
And just a couple of quick questions. Thank you, Mayor, for bringing this. Between written contracts and standard contracts, should we define what those are here? Because how do you define something as a written contract versus a standard contract? I'm just asking that question because it's prominent here, but I don't see that in the actual contract language. So just a suggestion that maybe we should add that definition otherwise I don't want a bunch of contracts coming to council because they're all considered written contracts. The other item that I had was the sentence says standard contracts may be used when approved by city attorney and council by resolution. And the sentence above it says resolution or motion. So should this be resolution or motion as well, or just some clarity? Just throwing it out there. And then finally, a suggestion that the last sentence, which says, just kind of talks about written contracts, but then it gets into standard contracts. My suggestion is put a period in there between so that it's clearer for everybody that's reading it. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you. I may ask for an email with those specific. Please be sure to send it to
Sure.
Staff and city attorney. Councilmember McAdams.
Hello. Okay,
Yes,
there it
you
is.
are.
Okay, great. Thank you. And thank you for bringing this forward. We've been working on this part of the municipal code for a few years now. So it's nice to get this buttoned up. Just something I would encourage staff to do is once we get the standardized contract templates, which I think is very important, that I'm sure that staff already has audits and is checking our contracts or checking renewals. So it would be really nice at some point to have all of our contracts on these standardized templates sort of as they're renewing instead of just adding that one page renewal. It would be great to have, at some point, maybe the goal is 5 years, just to have all of our contracts in the standardized template. 'Cause I know in the past we've had issues with our contracts or spelling errors, grammatical errors, et cetera. So I appreciate you bringing that forward. Thank you.
Councilmember Smith.
Your Honor, I'd move the recommended action, and I'll just note that I agree with the changes that were suggested, especially definition of standard contracts.
Do we have a second?
I'm happy to second that.
Okay. Discussion on the motion. Councilmember Coletti.
Well, since you've called on me, I think receiving the terms of the contract prior to council authorization is essential, and I'm glad to see its inclusion. Thank you.
All right. If no further discussion, may we have a vote, please?
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember McAdams,
Aye.
Mayor Peak,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Amelio,
Aye.
Councilmembers Coletti.
Aye.
Baduri.
Aye.
And Tomlinson.
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0.
Now we're going to the former item 8A, which is check register report, August 2022. Ms. Hannah.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the council members and members of the public. I don't have a presentation for you this evening. The attachment to this agenda report includes the list of checks that were issued in August of 2022.
Do we have any public comment? Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Debbie Beck. Several months ago, I brought the checkbook register to your attention regarding CalAm bills in excess of $750,000 in an 18-month window. If you could reference page 25 of the checkbook register. And I'd like to start at the bottom. And it's my understanding 980 Piedmont is Arnett Park. And the bill was $7,419.07. I have a granddaughter who plays softball there, and I believe their season runs March through the end of May, beginning of June. During that time, I was told that it was sopping wet out there, so I don't know if the sprinklers are broken or it just runs consistently when the kids are not playing, but I seriously think we have an issue. Also at Berwick Park, as you can see, moving up $7,033.63. Jewel Park, $6,923. And then we go on up to Ocean View Irrigation, 5,017 Mile Drive, which would be the ballpark, 4,800. And Platt Park is 2338.84. I actually live in that neighborhood. I have never seen the sprinklers on, nor does it look like the park gets sprinkled or gets irrigated. So I'd like to defer this to the department that handles either the subcontractors who oversee the irrigation, see if there's a problem, but this is a tremendous waste of valuable water and money to our city. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other public comment?
No virtual.
Council comment? I will, believe it or not, it was 11 years ago, I was looking at utility bills, PG&E and CalAm. It's part of the recreation board. There's a lot, they're assigned by department, if I'm not mistaken. I raised a number of questions with our rec board liaison who was not able to answer them because these meters are scattered across the city. So just an observation that these the meters and the charges come in are assigned to different departments. And so staff would not see the total utility bills for the city. And it's, I gather it's substantial. I'm not sure. I think someone from staff had told me it used to be $250,000. I'm thinking it's $500,000 now, all utilities. And anyhow, it's just a It's just, if you look at it from that perspective, if you pile them all together, maybe it's worth looking at as a group instead of parceling. If you take them all and distribute all these charges to different departments, then it's hard to justify looking at the individual pieces. But if you put them all together, anyhow, just an observation. Councilmember Coletti.
Thank you, Your Honor. It is an important and interesting topic. And I think council may want at some point to have an audit of all utilities, PG&E and water. Some of these things are automated, so it's not necessarily someone's fault per se, but I've driven by the library, you know, in the wee hours of the night and all the lights are on kind of thing. So it would be a good thing to look into. And as a note of optimism, this council did authorize as a CIP, the Purple Pipe Project, where we'll be irrigating our coastal park, Berwick Park, primarily with recycled water from the water project. So there's some good news on the horizon for that park.
Okay. Any other comment? If not, it's received the report and we'll move on to item 13A, Friends of Perkins Park. Mr. Go.
You guys are moving right along tonight. This one
Yeah.
caught me by surprise.
We are.
Thank you, Mayor. Members of the City Council, as part of the fiscal year 1920 capital improvement program, the City Council authorized a plan to ensure Perkins Park continues to flourish. Since then, Public Works and numerous volunteers, and I always say numerous volunteers, hundreds of people have spent countless hours down there towards the maintenance of Perkins Park, which they are implementing option 1 of the plan that was approved by City Council, which is to continue towards the enhancement of the existing park conditions. The Friends of Perkins Park have begun to receive donations through the Pacific Grove Rotary that can be used towards these enhancements. The Friends have the generated funds that the Friends are collecting will be used for things such as weeding, the irrigation system, aloe reduction, trail maintenance, and that's just to name a few of the items. Their goal is to raise $25,000 in 2023, and so far they've already raised $17,000 and have multiple pledges totaling over $35,000 over the next 5 years. Additionally, they're working with the Chamber of Commerce to raise donations through the business community. Tonight, we wanted to inform council that the Friends of Perkins Park have begun their donation campaign, and city staff is requesting council blessing us to work with the Friends to continue efforts towards the enhancement of Perkins Park. And I would like to say that Perkins Park, I think this last year looked better than it has in the last 10 years. And that's the dedication that the City Council and the Public Works Department and volunteers have put forth. You guys allocated funding for that dedicated employee down there that puts his heart and soul into that park every day. And he leads these volunteers and works with the Friends of Perkins Park to really make it happen. And it's showing down there. And I know this year we're going to have even a better year at Perkins Park than we did last year. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do we have any public comment?
No virtual.
Council discussion. Councilmember McAdams.
For me, this is a great example of what can happen when our community comes together. And so, of course, I'd like to extend my gratitude to the Friends of Perkins Park, the Rotary, the volunteers, and our amazing volunteer coordinator, Amy Colony. She does a great job as far as recruiting and organizing people. I support staff's recommendation, and I too am pleased that the council invested in, the Perkins Park, the landscape plan, and the employee. I mean, obviously we saw the results of that. And so, the plan is innovative as far as implementing with volunteers, which is not something that I had even thought about, but I mean, that's just incredible. So I'm totally in support of this, and I look forward to sustaining our incredible purple carpet.
Mayor Pro Tem Emilio.
Thank you, Mayor. I've met with several of the volunteers the past year, and most recently last Friday of one. And it's a good compliment to all the volunteers, and it keeps the coastline iconic. It's that magic carpet is seen really worldwide. And in fact, my wife tried to walk down there during the week, and it was crowded with all kinds of people there, which we want, because they'll be spending money in our businesses and stuff. So, but compliments to the staff for keeping that park iconic.
Councilmember Smith.
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to echo that. I think that this is a great example of collaboration between staff, volunteers, and good policy making. So this is great, and we just want it to continue.
I'll just echo those comments, and I want to give a shout out to the people organizing Friends of Perkins Park, Bill Frederickson, Ron Lloyd, and Cynthia Garfield. And I hope I didn't leave anybody out, but I think those are the three key people. Councilmember Coletti.
Thank you, Your Honor. Yeah, I of course agree that it's a great effort on the part of local volunteers and the city to help coordinate it. Council did have action on a Perkins Park landscape plan. This, I think the last item or the last time it came before council was November 4th, 2020. I know Mr. Go is already prepared for the question I'm going to ask, I think. Well, let's go see and find out. There was a landscape maintenance plan adopted by council at that meeting, and I'm just wanting some clarification from you if that is the plan that's going to be used going forward as part of this effort.
Councilmember Coletti, yes, you are correct. There was a plan that was adopted by the city council that had specific options associated with that plan. And the city council opted to move forward with option one, which was to continue with the enhancement of the current conditions down there. There were other options like installing botanical gardens and native gardens and so on and so forth, and a whole elaborate plan. But the council at that time opted not to move forward with those two options. And let's really try to enhance the existing vegetation that was currently within the park. We've been carrying forward that option since November of 2020.
Okay, so everyone's clear on what the plan is, and there's no real reason for BNRC review or anything like that for going forward.
Throughout this process, there was ample public comment, public review, and numerous times that this item was brought forth before the city council.
Yep. Yeah, I'm just so everyone knows, a BNRC member was curious about what the plan was and whether they needed to see it. But based on my reading of the minutes, I don't think that's the case. So thank you for confirming.
I want to bring up the recommended action. We've received the report, obviously, is number 2, authorize staff. We can encourage staff, or direct, but we don't have that responsibility to authorize, I don't believe, anyhow. I think you've heard encouragement here. Do you need a motion?
I don't think so, Your Honor. I think the message is clear that you're blessing staff to move forward with working with the Friends, and I'll work with Ms. Hannah to figure out how we want to receive these donations and bring them in and get them associated with Perkins Park. It's a great program. Thank you.
Any other comments? Councilmember Tomlinson.
Thank you. I echo all the thanks and the fantastic work. And I just maybe I miss it sometimes, but if we can continue to I know we do it, but advertise and get this story told and get more involvement, because I think there's still a lot of people in the community who maybe don't know about it and would like to volunteer their time and be a part of the effort because it's so great. So just keep that up too. That's what I'm saying. Thank you.
All right. Now moving on to the next item, 13B, city efforts regarding 29 Pacific Grove homeless residents. Councilmember McAdams.
Thank you, Mayor. And Ms. Candell, if you wouldn't mind putting up the PowerPoint. Thank you. And so just we're going to have a conceptual discussion of the efforts for Pacific Grove homeless residents, even though the council is not moving forward with applying for the $15 million for the home key. We still have in the data, it shows we still have 29 counted homeless residents. So the next slide. And just also, Ms. Wyatt will help and discuss the city's efforts to address our unhoused residents. The next slide. So when I was getting this together, I wanted to have, just a general concept of the increase in homeless and unhoused residents in the city of Pacific Grove. So back in 2013, Pacific Grove had 6 homeless residents. 2015, that increased to 13. The next slide. 2017, that increased to 35. I'm sorry, 35. 2019, we decreased to 14. And then 2022, we increased to 29. The point in time typically goes every 2 years, but obviously because of COVID, it did not happen in 2021. And also, and maybe Anastasia has a better recollection, but in 2019, I think that at the time when they did the physical count, it was like freezing conditions or there was a big storm, which is sort of why that might have helped with the decrease of the actual people sleeping on the streets. So the next slide. So within all of the counts that we've had done over the years, another consistent number has been that in the city of Pacific Grove, there are 0 homeless residents sheltered. So if you look back at figure 6, it shows how many are counted on the street and then how many are counted in shelters. And so throughout since 2013 to 2022, we've had 0 homeless people counted in shelters because we don't have any services for them. And so the next slide. So I would encourage everyone in the community to look at the point in time count. The next couple slides are just some data points that I found very interesting. And that's the place of residence that these community members, where they're living when they're experiencing the homelessness. And you could see that these are permanent community members in our cities. They experience their homelessness when they're living here. So you hear this, oh, they come from San Francisco or they come. No, these are our neighbors. These are people who have been priced out. These are people who maybe have lost a spouse, lost income, etc. So when you hear that dialogue of, these are our vagrant homeless people, that is not the case. These are people that have been in our community. The next slide. And so with that, with the length of time in Monterey County, again, the data shows 64% of our homeless have lived in Monterey County for over a decade, 10 years or more. So these are, again, this is to further show it's not people coming from other states and cities. These are our friends and neighbors and family members that are experiencing their first time ever being homeless in Monterey County and have lived here for over a decade. And the next slide. So the Community Foundation for Monterey County, they have incredible fund. It's a fund for homeless women. In one of their recent studies, they have shared that there's approximately 500 homeless women living on the Monterey Peninsula. So they're not in Salinas, they're on the peninsula. And that these women are predominantly white, older, and longtime residents of Monterey Peninsula. Next slide. So even though the community was very loud about not wanting to apply for the home key funding, we still have homeless residents in Pacific Grove. That doesn't make them go away. And so, just things that we need to consider. And so for me, just because we're not going to apply for a home key, I would hope that this council, it doesn't mean we're just going to put our hands up and proceed business as usual. So some questions that, we can discuss tonight is, do we as a city and a community, is this a goal? Is this something we want? Do we want to see a decrease in our unhoused residents, especially by the next time we do the point in time count? And I would like to thank Councilmember Pedori. He participated in the last count, as well as Anastasia. So thank you for doing that. I know you get up really early and it's really cold and dark. And so, if we want to see a decrease in our unhoused residents, then how and what efforts would our community and our city leadership support? The next slide. Should the city engage with community outreach on homeless solutions? I mean, for me, my understanding and what I believe is that how you solve homelessness is you shelter people and then you provide them services. So it's housing first. We're not going to make them be alcohol free and not have a dog and have car insurance and all of these barriers that cause people to continue to stay homeless. Instead, you get them sheltered and then the services come. So as far as community outreach on homeless solutions, educations on services that are available for the unhoused, and how housing supports our homeless residents. And also, what are the current city efforts to decrease the number of homeless residents in the city of Pacific Grove? Like, yes, we have the Welcome Home Housing Initiative, and we've had a lot of meetings and we have lots of pages of reports. But at the end of the day, we're not really doing anything to decrease the number of homeless residents. And the last slide, that's all. Thank you. I really appreciate the public comment that we have received. And I think that this is an important dialogue to just start in the community. Quite frankly, I was a little perplexed by such a big reaction or big, just the way that the home key, just applying for the home key, there was so much pushback. And for me, it some of the messages that I heard from the community about our unhoused resident seemed a little bit like maybe we need to do some outreach and education. And I know you've already sort of started that a little bit with your intern. But by that big of a reaction, and, quite frankly, there was a lot of fear that I heard. It really told me that our community needs to be just better educated in how current efforts are to help and assist unhoused residents. And, something else, all cities, like, we can't just send them to Salinas or this is the county's issue. We're all hands on deck. This is everybody's issue. These homeless residents are living in our city, and we do have some responsibility to care for them. So thank you.
Public comment? Welcome.
Thank you, Debbie Beck. So I'd like to ask Mrs. or Councilwoman McAdams what experience you have with homelessness sitting on a homeless board? Because you seem to have this opinion of the residents here, and I'm just wondering how much experience you have with this.
Okay.
And
this is
I'm just
Q&A.
directing
This is
it. I
comment.
understand. I did sit on a homeless board, and it was located in Seaside, or excuse me, in Port Ord. We did address furnishing apartments for homeless women. My experience on that board was the homeless families that were there were given free housing. I say free, they were asked to pay. As you see, I'm a numbers person. And on that board, when I would get the monthly accounting, they were not paying to live there. They just wanted to stay for free, even though they were working. We have very little resources to help the mentally ill, the addiction. These are things that come with homelessness, and I can speak from experience. I was asked to sit on the board for a reason. So we do not say it doesn't happen here in Pacific Grove and it only happens in Salinas, but I don't see that there is a need. And when you say to educate the residents, I think we do need to educate the residents. And I think the residents need to understand what homelessness truly is about. Many do not want a roof over their head. And the few that do, they choose not to to compensate the programs. There is a homeless coalition that has been created. And I would encourage our city to meet with them perhaps and to see what the needs are, and not just the advice of a council member that we need housing for homeless. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Hi, Darla Vining. I want to share that this isn't coming from a place of fear. I have a cousin right now who is currently homeless. He lives in his car. Well, it's a van. And he chooses to. He actually has a job. He makes $60,000 a year. And from time to time, he takes a shower at his mom's and dad's house in Marina, or he stays out there in Marina, or he'll sleep out front of our house. We have several family members around. He doesn't want to rent. He doesn't want to come up with the first month's rent and the last month's rent. He doesn't want to have that overhead. That's why he's homeless. He has a job. He has a place where he can shower. What more does a 24-year-old want? This isn't fear. I'm not afraid of my family. And if I can help them out, then I will. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak?
I do have some virtual hands. Lisa Ciani.
Welcome.
Thank you. I just want to say, I really appreciate Councilmember McAdams bringing this data forward, the information and the issue, because it is an issue. It's painful to walk by someone who is homeless and not be able to offer them help. I think solutions, whatever there is that can be offered to help the homeless people who want help and need help and can use help to get a leg up. There's so many different personal experiences that lead to this. But it's an issue that the community needs to face. And I really hope you can have a good, deep discussion about this and figure out what steps Pacific Grove can take. We're a small community, and there's a limit to what we can do, but we need to show our compassion and provide what help that we can. So I really appreciate Councilmember McAdams' efforts here, and I hope that you all thinking together can come up with some good ideas or a way forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Marcia,
Welcome.
Marcia. Andrew Kay.
Welcome.
Good evening, council, and thank you for allowing me to speak. And Mayor, there were several months ago, this item came up to the council, I believe, and staff gave a count at that time of 29. And if I remember correctly, the statement made was that they did not actually physically count 29, that they counted a sector of the city and then extrapolated to that number. I tried to come back in the last couple of days to find that video, and I couldn't find it, but that seemed to stick in my mind. And I know this is a problem. I think we need to understand what the problem really is. If we're going by the numbers, recently I have seen that there was a car in Grove Market with New York State plates on it, and it said he was homeless. There are several cars parked along the coast, and there's Washington State plates, there's Pennsylvania State plates, and there are New York State plates. The other day I came up Grand Avenue, and there was a car with New York plates, and it looked like there was a blanket and a mattress in the back of the car. This was a Jeep. I don't know if these are local people and they never got California plates, or these are out-of-state people. I do not know that for a reason. I understand that this is a problem. I understand that I want to be helpful and caring, and some of the homeless people need help, and I totally agree with that. But I am concerned that the numbers may not be accurate enough, that we're going to make decisions based on numbers that may be incorrect. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Marcia,
Welcome.
we still cannot hear you. She seems to be unmuted on her end, but.
All right, we'll close public comment then and bring it back to council. Councilmember Tomlinson.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Councilmember McAdams, for bringing this item and discussion to us tonight. One of my questions, I think is for staff, for Anastasia, the Community Human Services group, it's a nonprofit and a JPA that services all of Monterey County. And I was on the board my first couple of years on council. I'm not anymore. But they do really, really wonderful and amazing things as a collective for a variety of folks in need in our community, from drug addiction to homelessness. And Alan Cohen is our person who's our representative on that right now. He's not here tonight. I don't think he's online, so he can't speak to it. I do check their updates from time to time. I know there was a really good, I'm not sure how public it is, but there's been a donation made for a new house and land. It's not in PG, it's very close to PG. That's going to be developing a similar home to kind of like Casa de Noche Buena, but I don't think it will only be for women. I mean, it's still in being figured out. And so I guess my question would, I do have some of the similar questions of, what are the solutions that the folks with that are unhoused, what are the solutions that are best if we could put them in order? And I know everybody's answer to that of what their solution might be would be different. So it's a hard problem to tackle. But that's what Community Human Services has done and for 50 years. And I think they've done it really well. And so I'm wondering how partnered we are with them and plugged in with them for our current population. Do you know, Anastasia?
Councilmember Tomlinson, I've been working with the Continuum of Care and the Coalition of Homeless Services Providers for over 8 years in our community. And I've been working with Community Human Services and Gathering for Women. And there are agencies that are definitely working on addressing the homeless solutions in our community. They primarily address youth and women, which leaves, and there is, before Casa de Noche Buena, there was no other permanent homeless shelter on the peninsula. So that was the first permanent homeless shelter following the Share Center in Salinas. So that is an option for shelter. There's a wait list. I did go take a visit over there. There's a wait list of over 200 people waiting to get into that shelter. That's how popular it is. And they've cut the wait list off. So we do not have enough shelter as was represented in the data. And this is all data. This was a point in time count. I did talk to the Continuum of Care about how many people have sought assistance from the Continuum of Care from Pacific Grove to back up the point in time count. And they had roughly about 29 people who have also sought services. So that means there are people who haven't gone to the Continuum of Care requesting services. And what Interim Inc., the Continuum of Care, other services providers, and I know them all, I have worked with the executive directors, all of them have told me our population wants to stay in PG. They do not want to go to Salinas. We have housed recently through partnerships, one particular person experiencing homelessness who is a resident of PG. I was able to get her housed with my partnerships for 4 months. And those are things we're definitely working on.
Okay, thanks. I had a feeling you were very plugged into that. I do think this new opportunity that the land that was donated is going to be for a shelter. So not just a care facility or an outpatient type facility, it'll be an overnight shelter. So that's good news for the whole community. I'm sure that waiting list will be long and it will take a couple of years to build as well. I'm supportive of solutions. I don't have a long list of solutions. And I guess another question, since you have a lot of experience in this, is how to kind of understand the desires. So, finding out that someone's homeless and then making generalizations or assumptions about what are the first, second, and third step, or is there no step and they're pleased with the situation. I find that hard to believe, but how do we delicately handle that for this population?
So I just want to discuss quickly that there's the point in time count. I worked with the Continuum of Care as well on hiring a contractor to do a 5-year plan to end homelessness. It was data driven. So looking at Community Human Services and all of our services providers and what are their outcomes? How do people do best to become more self-sufficient, to end their homelessness, and which service providers how are we all working together to end homelessness? And so they looked at all of the data from all of our service providers. They looked at, are people exiting shelter into housing? These are really important measures. So all of this was done
in the 5-year plan to end homelessness. It's on the Continuum of Care website. And also part of that planning was a progress report. So there is a year 1 progress report. I recommend that you look at this to the 5-year plan to end homelessness. This progress report also recommends ways in which we can assist our community and work collectively to end homelessness, because we all need to be working together to do that. And so a lot of it is housing focused, strategic and data informed, and person-centered approaches to ending each individual's homelessness that they're experiencing. So those are some ways we can do that. And if I'm happy to send those reports to anyone who's interested.
Okay, and my last question is what for Pacific Grove, what would be your recommendation for a next step that maybe isn't as big as Home Key or as our Welcome Home? You know, what could we be doing that we're missing from your view?
I would like to say one thing. I'm pleased since I've arrived here working with our police chief, Madelone, and our police department. Everyone has been very helpful. When I said, let's do the point in time count, they were on board and assisted with the count. We worked together to discuss people that we're needing to assist, and we try to coordinate with our regional efforts and regional funds. And I would say that I would recommend that one of the council sits on the board of the Continuum of Care, the Leadership Council. That is an opportunity, or attend the meetings regularly. The regional efforts, again, like I said, I personally sit on, I am a co-chair on the Housing Pipeline Committee for the Continuum of Care, where we try to address how do we get more vouchers into the system. We're working on a voucher study right now to increase the fair market rents of our vouchers within our county. We discuss what different developers and developments are going in. So that's a very important committee that helps us plug into our regional efforts. I actually am on an advisory board for Gathering for Women, so that I personally can assist. So I know that if I get calls regularly from people who are experiencing homelessness or about to experience homelessness, and advise them to work with the Continuum of Care. I'm plugged into the county's homeless director. So all of these things, I think, are ways that we continue to be connected to where are the resources, how do we work with other nonprofit agencies that are in the homeless service provider, the Coalition of Homeless Services Providers, because they're the people we're partnering with, like you said, with Community Human Services. These are partners that will help us get to ending homelessness.
Thank you. And it's great that you are doing all that. So your suggestion would be to have you continue doing that, and maybe have a council member that you could liaise with about the efforts?
Yes, and that council member, I would recommend one council member being on the Leadership Council, or at least attending the Leadership Council meetings.
Awesome. Thank you for that input.
Councilmember Coletti.
Thank you, Your Honor. It sounds like Ms. Wyatt is extremely busy dealing with this important problem, but I'm beginning to wonder whether this really falls under the community development director's responsibilities. We had a housing program coordinator. Tori, are we going to fill that position that Ms. Wyatt just left?
That position is still authorized, and it is actually a program manager or senior program manager, and that is subject to recruitment.
So when are we going to send out a any kind of notice for that recruitment effort?
We are working on the recruitment effort right now.
I think that's the first priority. When I read this agenda report, that's the first thing that came to mind. is that we don't have a housing program coordinator. And there are a lot of things on our plate as far as the community development department is concerned. We've got a housing element that we're updating. We've got a general plan that we're going to be amending. We've got associated EIRs. Quite frankly, the RFP for our general plan took over a month just to get listed as an RFP. So I do agree with the statement that we are kind of resource bound. So I think the first priority is to get a program manager in here to deal with housing. We do have programs that, you know, we can be proud of. I think the One Starfish safe parking program is one of them. I'd like to see that continued. I'd also point out that, you know, community discussion is important, but I don't think we can be blaming the community for the apprehension they experienced with the Home Key project. That was a $15 million project put on consent agenda that no one knew anything about, including me, and I voted for it. So I trusted at that point, and you know, that project had some problems, including the proposed site. There was no site control for it. So I don't think we should be trying to blame our residents for being homeless phobic or whatnot. What we need to do is we need to engage with our regional partners. And I think this is a great suggestion for a council member to sit on a regional panel and make regular reports to this council. So I would support that. But I think the first priority that I come away with this agenda report is let's hire the staff person that should be dealing with this. Thank you.
Councilmember Peduri.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Councilmember McAdams, for bringing this. This is an important topic that concerns me as well. First of all, I would like to thank Ms. Wyatt. It's very important when you're dealing with such a complex topic to have somebody spearheaded. So I'm glad that you're here, you're looking into all the issues, and you're connecting with the right people to take things forward. I would also like to mention that the new building that you had referenced, Ms. Tomlinson, that's called the Schumann Hart House. It's going to come close to, it's somewhere in the Franklin Avenue area in Monterey. It's actually as a result of somebody who has donated money for that effort that it's actually coming up. I would also attest to the fact that there is a wait list for all the shelters in town. So it's not an easy avenue for anybody to go to a certain shelter per se. And then I would also agree with my council member McAdams that housing first is a proven solution. So when you're looking at tackling homelessness, housing is the first priority. It's not only is it a proven solution, but it'll be a cheaper solution in the long run because you're doing multiple activities related to this with multiple solutions. I would like to take this time to say that I've had a chance to tour. First of all, I had a chance to get up early in the morning to take the point in time count first in my book. But I two first in my book, getting up early in the morning and taking a point in time counts. But it actually came that actually put into light what was happening in Pacific Grove itself on Ocean View Boulevard is when I actually took that point in time count. I also had an opportunity to tour the Gathering for Women. I also toured the Casa de Noche Buena, which are both in Monterey. And what I've really come to understand from all of this is that we need to consider different types of people who are experiencing homelessness. So we have individuals who have family issues, who may be out of job, for example, who just need a place to live. We may have veterans who have PTSD, who will need supportive housing. Then we'll have folks who have developmental disabilities. They will need long-term residential care. And I know we have Covia, which is now called Front Porch. And there will be cases where there are seniors who do not have long-term living, and they will need support to get their lives together. So I'm actually learning more every day because this is really a complex topic. And I believe that the point in time is exactly that. It's a point in time. So 29 is there, but I believe it's probably higher than that. So at this time, what I think we need to do is we need to identify the categories that the unhoused people are actually falling under based on their situation, because there are several categories, and we need to have somewhat of a plan for each of these categories. I also believe that we need to have the county help us here, because those that are experiencing chronic homelessness or have issues with mental health, these guys need a completely different set of medical services to support them, and we don't have that kind of support. So all in all, my point is it's a complicated topic, but we need to look at multiple solutions to address not only the 29, but possibly a lot bigger number here. But thank you for all that you're doing.
Councilmember Smith.
Thank you. Yeah, I think what I'm hearing, I mean, what I've heard and what I was thinking beforehand is that we need a more of a coordinated effort, because I feel like we hear from staff, various different solutions of which I was unaware that are being approached. But I think we need a coordinated effort at the staff level. And if that means that we need to hire another staff member to help defray other work or whatever's going on, then we ought to go down that road. I agree with Luke on that. And because I feel like in a lot of areas, we're maybe running a skeleton crew a little bit. So, and tonight, this is it was brought up, but there wasn't any solution in the item. So I think we need to start thinking, about solutions when we get up here. We want to get some options to look at, and so that we can tackle the issue. But obviously it's really complicated, but that's even more of a reason to have someone look at the whole thing holistically, make a report about it or a summary about it, something we can all understand, and then we'll go from there to try to tackle the issue. So I think if it's a staffing issue, then, let's have some more staff in the housing department, because obviously it's a hot department and we have a bunch of things we're doing, and maybe one person could be the point person, and perhaps other folks could be the point person for something else that we're working on, it's all happening at the same time. So, and it's not easy, and there's all kinds of rules and regulations and laws that have to be complied with. So I think that we just need to spend more time and effort on it, and maybe that means we need more staff.
Mayor Pro Tem Emilio.
Thank you. I'll echo some of the comments Councilmember Paduri and Smith mentioned, but and I appreciate, Anastasia, all you've done. Especially, it seems like you probably have grown 4 arms trying to handle everything in regards to that. But I was going to make a suggestion. I know I don't want to bring up the Project Home Key, and I was the only lone vote on that Project Home Key to at least apply for the funds, but now that's water under the bridge. I could just make a suggestion that at a future council meeting, not immediate, is maybe just some points of light that you've explained. And I also want to volunteer to be the council liaison, which you mentioned to that. And I'll you just can email me the information on that. But I appreciate your efforts in doing everything, and you got a lot more on your plate. So I also agree with Councilmember Coletti. I know you've mentioned, Tori, about, it's going to be advertised, and the other thing is that some of the large cities in my prior life in the city of San Jose, and some of the things I've done in San Francisco, they have budgets for the homeless, but we're also talking over a million people in the city of San Jose. So you multiply 29 homeless times, they've got a ton. If you just look at some of the camps have crept up on 85 and 101. So I'm not suggesting that we suddenly look at allotting some money toward the budget for homelessness, but maybe we could start off with in a future, not immediate, but in the future, Anastasia, maybe just what you've mentioned, some points on a slide This way we all get the same message and then we can go from there. So that's my suggestion. And thank you for what you've done.
I'll a lot of great comments, discussions, starting off with Councilmember McAdams. Obviously, Ms. Wyatt, you've been heavily invested in this area. Housing is perhaps inarguably our top priority. So having a housing person dedicated here to the whole spectrum of housing, from homeless to affordable housing would be good. And it's in our budget already. So I'll just add to a couple of suggestions. One is on the 29 homeless. I would like to know, what are their needs? I mean, we've talked about homeless needs in general, of wide variety of types of needs, from health, addiction, jobs, etc. Is it possible to talk to our homeless and find out what their needs are and let us know? How, I know we don't have social services here, but maybe we can start by knowing, what do PG homeless folks need? I don't know. And maybe we can go from there. And the other is to approach community human services. And I've had contact years ago. Planning Commissioner Murphy and I went out to Casa de Noche Buena before it was even open, and saw the wonderful plans they had. And they're expanding into Monterey. Why don't we ask them about expanding into Pacific Grove? I mean, I hear the comments about, oh, we need this holistic, the cooperation across the Monterey Peninsula, Monterey County, and I agree. But what are we doing here in Pacific Grove? So maybe we can get a homeless residents here to help some folks. Anyhow, that's my thought. Councilmember McAdams.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you everyone for your comments. I'm just wondering if Ms. Wyatt, can you, I have two requests. Can you talk a little bit about the housing voucher program and how perhaps community members, excuse me, and property owners in Pacific Grove can participate in that as a landlord, as a homeowner?
Councilmember McAdams, the voucher program, if any landlords or homeowners who rent their properties would accept people with a voucher, that does help. There have been recent allocations for homeless vouchers, and there are also the traditional Section 8 vouchers that you've probably heard about. So yes, that's how landlords could assist.
So anyone can accept a housing, is it called, I think it's called is it flexible housing voucher? It has like a name.
There are a few different types, but mainly the main one you'll hear is the housing choice voucher, which is a Section 8 voucher.
Got it. And so with that, any landlord, any property owner can accept that. And actually in Monterey County, they're automatically deposited in your bank account. And also they tend to be on the higher end as far as the amount that the voucher recipient receives. Is that?
It's supposed to be the fair market rent, and that is one study that is regionally being worked upon to increase that amount to more of the true fair market rent. But right now, the fair market rents are quite high as they're based on actual rents.
Thanks. And then also another program that our community could be involved in that Councilmember Paduri brought up, which used to be Covia Home Match, now Front Porch. If I was a homeowner, how could I be involved with that, or how could I participate?
So Covia actually has left the county because they couldn't get enough traction and funding. So we do not have that as a resource anymore. But the idea behind that was that you could share your housing, like if you had an additional room available, like if your house rich, but maybe cash poor, you could get some rental income.
And so their front porch isn't here. Ugh, so bummer. Okay. Well, thank you, everybody, for the discussion. And, I think moving forward with the housing programs manager, did that position engage with unhoused residents? Was
Yeah,
that part of the job description? I don't.
Councilmember McAdams, I would just say in the 20+ years I've been doing community development, I started out and we were helping people mainly between 30 and 80% with community development block grant. And what I've seen with the resources from the federal government is that, and the state government, where the state is creating new resources like home key and room key, and the traditional resources that are federal resources like CDBG, and in the 90s emergency solutions grant and home program came about. Those programs were traditionally for 30 to 80%. And what we've seen is people are having less income, becoming more impoverished, and those programs are being stretched down. So now they're helping 0 to 80% AMI, area median income. So we have less resources for more need. So over the years, we're seeing an increase in homelessness, an increase in people experiencing housing problems and being burdened, housing cost burdened. And the number one reason in the point in time count for people becoming homeless is that they can't afford rent. So if you actually read through the data, because it does detail what's happening with our homeless population, it gets into, is it due to incarceration? Did they become homeless due to lack of being able to pay rent? All of these details are in that report, and most of them it's because they're unable to pay rent. The seniors I hear from pretty much on several per week are saying, I don't have enough income. I'm running out of Social Security. I'm running out of income. The rents are going up. They're not getting more income. They're unable to pay the rent. So we could definitely, if you look at the point in time count too, you showed data from like 2013 to 2020. And I know I do know quite a bit about this. I've been doing this for 8.5 years in Monterey County. So I do have quite a bit of knowledge and relationships and collaboration with different agencies. So I bring that to you as part of what I've done in my past. But most of these agencies work together to try to assist the people who are experiencing homelessness, but it's just increasing. We're seeing a larger increase in people who are experiencing homelessness, and mainly it's due to lack of income, higher rents. And there's a book out, Homelessness is a Housing Problem. I would encourage everyone to read that. It's really details, takes all the data on a national level and all of this continuum of care data that we're talking about tonight. And I know a lot of us like data because that's how we get it. And they do very good statistical analysis on the data. The bottom line is homelessness is a housing problem.
Thank you for that. And I mean, even just this week, I forwarded an email that a constituent sent to me, who's 79 years old and was renting a room, and she's not going to have a home anymore. So something else that the city could do, I mean, what is your thought on when we talk about preventing homelessness, right? Increase in rent, or, I don't have money for a down payment. Do some cities have renting? I know that we had a little bit of money for a renter's assistance program during the pandemic. Are any of those funds available? Is that something that you think would help the residents that are calling you on a weekly basis? I mean, will that help at least prevent some homelessness?
Right now, Councilmember McAdams, that program has ended. It was federal funds through the Department of Treasury that went through the county that came down to the cities. So that funding is over. And what I've seen in other agencies right now, everybody's talking about universal income. That's one way to help people pay the rent with all the
without all the red tape. So there have been some studies about what worked with the rental assistance program through the Department of Treasury, national studies again. So there's more data out there.
Okay, perfect. Great. Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right, I suggest it's just about 8 o'clock. I suggest that it's almost 8 o'clock. We take a short break and how about resume? Yeah, there's one item. Well, we spent almost 45 minutes on this particular item. So I'm just wondering, if we're going to spend that amount of time on this one or?
No.
Okay,
I was just
all
saying, we
right,
only have one
let's
item left,
go
so-
on. Next item is item 13C, automatic funding mechanism for the Take Part program. Again, Ms. McAdams.
Great. Thank you so much. If you could bring up the slide, that would be great. Sorry, I'm just finding mine. So in August of 2020, the City Council approved the Take Part program. And when we approved that, when I reviewed the program, something that was missing was the automatic funding mechanism to keep the program going. Next slide, please. And so Take Part stands for To Afford Kids Economical Parks and Recreation Today. And this is to help income qualified households to pay for camps, registration fees, etc. Next slide. So before the council this evening, it would be to implement an automatic funding mechanism. So Fund 25 is the fund that where the Take Part grants come from. And this would be only would trigger when Fund 25 is depleted. I think currently there's about 30,000 in Fund 25. And so this would be when and if Fund 25 is depleted, it would just automatically deposit money into the fund. The next slide. Oh, that's it. Thank you.
Public comment?
No virtual.
Council discussion. Councilmember Tomlinson.
I think this is a great idea. I'm fully supportive of it. I mean, I know that it's it was instituted in the right spirit and it's been followed. It's been very helpful and I'd like it to be sustained and continue.
Councilmember Coletti.
Thank you, Your Honor. I think it is a great program and I'd like to support it, but I don't like automatic funding that takes away discretion of council. And I don't think you can actually even bind a future council action. So I think this should just come forward whenever the fund is low. We can direct staff that they inform us, it comes to us and we authorize it. And I'd be happy, you know, that I'm sure something like this is not going to be approved, but automatic funding, I don't think is a good idea for anything. Thank you.
I'll ask a question. Where has the 30,000 come from that's existing in the fund?
Mayor Peak, the majority of the funding that is in there has come in from donations.
Okay. And what's the spend rate? Sorry I get a few details.
Mayor Peak, I'm representing the Recreation Department tonight. We've had one person that's used this. So
Okay,
we are looking at this spurred the Recreation Department to look at it. And I think that we're going to make some changes to the application to make it a little bit better. I could go through those if you'd like, or we can just bring it back at a future city council meeting. once we get those changes going.
And if I may,
Could I finish,
sure.
please? I did have a chance to glance at the application and I forgot to see, did you have to be a resident?
I believe you do.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay, anyhow, I
Yes, must be a Pacific Grove resident. That's correct.
yeah, and I'm wondering also the question raised by Councilmember Coletti about how you would implement a automatic refill. It might be something that's flagged that staff could bring to council's attention every year so that there's a sufficient pot of money to keep it afloat throughout the fiscal year. Any of my thought. I thought I saw another hand. No.
Thanks.
Councilmember
So when I spoke with Ms. Clark about this, I did inquire how many people have applied and utilized the funds. And, you know, what she had mentioned is obviously there hasn't really been any recreation programming or people have been hesitant because of the pandemic. And we also have had some limited offerings, but that is changing. We're having chess camp, there's after school programming, the preschool is back up, swimming is at like full speed ahead, et cetera, et cetera. So, and also the summer camps. I do think changing the application or having it be more prominent, you know, if you do need do you need financial assistance or are you interested in learning about our financial assistance program? I think right there would automatically boost participation because I had to dig online to find the flyer from August 2020. So it's not really mentioned on the Recreation Board website either, which I think would be, the Recreation Department website, which I think would be really helpful too. So I also think part of it is that families aren't really aware that we have this.
Councilmember Tomlinson.
Mr. Go, in the changes that staff's going to recommend or bring forward, is that going to be routed through the rec board first? If I would assume so, but I'd also just like to recommend that it is, just it gives another opportunity for those who tune into the rec board to hear about it, know about it, and provide public input. So I think some streamlining and changes to get the program actually being utilized is what you're going to put forward, but I'd love for the rec board to look at it first.
I agree.
Mayor Pro Tem Emilio.
Thank you. I'll just mention prior to 2018, myself being elected, I was on the Recreation Board, and I'm the one that suggested that we do a application to help people that are in low income areas. That was probably in 2016 or 2017, and I know things need to be updated periodically. So I'm glad it's still going, and I'm glad to hear there's, according to you, Toria, 30,000 is in the fund right now.
Emilio, through the mayor, yes, that is correct. There's about 30,000 in the fund.
Well, that's fantastic. I mean, compared to all these years. So anyway, okay, thank you.
Councilmember McAdams.
Thank you. And just one more comment. Ms. Hannah, how can people donate to the fund if they would like to?
They can just work with the Recreation Department to place a donation and then we'll receipt it in finance.
Perfect. And then when and if the fund gets depleted, I mean, is there a trigger or something for staff to be proactive to bring it to council?
Councilmember McAdams, through the mayor, we would be looking at it from a budgetary perspective. So if we had more need at mid-year than what we had budgeted at that time, we could come back to council, or if in looking at the budget for the new year, we would see that there's been extensive use, we can look at increasing the program monies for that particular fund.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, well, if there is no further council discussion, we'll close this particular item. And that brings us to the end of the agenda. Thank you to everyone, virtual, here in person, staff, public, my colleagues for participating tonight. Everyone have a great evening. Good night, meeting adjourned.
Well,
Except for we're now going to continue the special meeting closed session. And let's start that. Do you need 15 minutes?
We have to call their lawyer too.
Yeah.
Okay, let's make it, we'll reconvene at 8:20.
And is this A and B or just?
This is
A?
A first, and then we'll do B, so,
Okay.
right? And now get the other attorney.